Hi, welcome to the Recession Proof Investing series, where we have top experts sharing tips and strategies to level up your finances and achieve lasting success and financial freedom. Today, we have Chris Naugle. I'm your host, Keisha Bailey from Profit Jumpstarter. And today we have Chris Naugle with us, America's #1 money mentor. Hi, Chris.
Hi, how are you? It's good to be on the show. I apologize, I'm driving. I'm just kind of in between destinations here.
Totally okay, all good. We're just happy to have you. So could you share for the audience a bit about the work you do and your background?
Sure. I mean, it's simple. What I do now is I help people solve their money problems by putting them back in control of their money. That's essentially all we do with all the different companies we operate in. I also run a couple of real estate companies where we flip land and then, some rentals and Airbnbs that we do. But it didn't start that way. It started at humble beginnings. I grew up in a lower middle class family, raised by my mom. My dad really wasn't in the picture. And, my mom did something really great for me that I'll never forget. We didn't have resources to do things. So if I wanted something, my mom taught me to dream. She taught me to draw it on paper and then visualize it. And the funniest thing is, whether it was skateboards, BMX bikes, snowboards, I mean, anything, that's how I did it. I just visualized them. And then all of those things actually came to be. And, as that progressed, I came up with big goals, and I wanted to be a pro snowboarder more than anything. And I would watch all the VHS tapes of the other pros and just, everything that they did, I went and I practiced. Now, I didn't have the money to go to the resorts like a lot of the other people that would have been trying to do what I was doing. But what I did have is a country club that was in my town. And I would go there in the winters and I would hike the hill and build jumps out of sand traps. And I would practice and practice. It's kind of funny. My mom would drop me off after school and I only had like 2 hours to get, my tricks mastered. But the funniest part is, I would get really tired. So I'd go home, and the days I wasn't snowboarding, I would run up and down my backyard in like snow boots, trying to get myself fit so that I could get more runs and more practice in those few hours I had after school. And, I'm just trying to kind of pave the way and the way that I did things. And that carried straight through. When I was 16, I had a real job at a restaurant, but they degraded me and treated me awful. And I'll never forget the day that I quit. It was the day literally that I mark it down in my books that I quit trading hours for dollars. And I came home and told my mom, and I thought she was going to be mad. And I said, Mom, I want to start a clothing line in the basement. And that was when I became an entrepreneur. I started Fat Clothing Company, PHAT, in my basement, and I printed a dozen T-shirts with my art teacher. And that's kind of how I became an entrepreneur. And that turned into a skateboard, snowboard chain of stores that I started when it was about 18 when it actually opened, November of 1994. Those stores are still around today, but I sold them off in 2010. And it's just really cool to see them still flourishing and going today, because that was my dream back then. And I ran those stores for 16 years, had a lot of ups and downs. One of them that was interesting was in the early 2000s, where I ended up having to get a job. And that's how I landed in Wall Street. I couldn't make it with the stores because of the .com crash. So I ended up, getting a job in Wall Street of all places. That's how I ended up in money, and did 16 good years in Wall Street till I retired from that industry. And, I started just being around multimillionaires and billionaires and learning the secrets of the wealthy. And what I learned is it was the complete opposite of everything I did as an advisor. Everything I taught people was the opposite of what the wealthiest people that I was surrounding myself with were doing. So I wanted to know, how do I apply what the wealthy do to my life? And it's been just a journey. And that's been since 2014, which was the lowest point in my life. Ever since then, that's what I've been doing, is just applying the secrets of the wealthy, and that one thing, that one change that I made back in 14. That's kind of what got me to where I'm at today. And I just teach people everything I can. All comes from a mentor of mine, told me, give your best stuff away for free. And that's kind of what I've been doing ever since.
Wow, that's amazing. And so you speak about the tips of the wealthy and learning from them, and the fact that they do things quite differently from regular persons, and what you would have advised persons back when you were in banking. So could you share some of these tips for our listeners? Because I'm sure everyone's very interested.
Yeah, everybody always wants to know what is that one change that they have to do to basically mimic what the wealthy do and what the banks do. And it's simple. It all starts with, we have to start understanding that the wealthy don't trade hours for dollars like we do and like we're taught to do. They actually have learned that in order to get to their level and to keep and maintain the wealth that they have, that's the important thing. It's not just making money, it's keeping it. They have to have their money work for them. Now that sounds cliche and sounds, wow, well, that's easy for them to say they have a bunch of money, but they didn't start with money. None of them did. But what they did start doing is as they made a little bit of money, they saved, and then they would move their money. So the biggest thing I learned that was different than what I did in Wall Street. So when I was in Wall Street, I taught people, well, usually we were selling a product or, managing money for a fee. And it was always about somebody else, my clients, and this is what I did as well, giving up control of their money. They would put that money in, investment accounts, 401ks, IRAs, and I would manage them and charge a fee. And that's just what we did as advisors. But the wealthy, they don't just park their money and leave it sit. As a matter of fact, that's like if you sit down with a very successful, let's just say a 100 millionaire, right? And you talk to them about money, you will constantly hear things like, my money's in motion, my money's always moving, I've moved money from here to here, here to here, but they do it from a different source than we do as well. And this is the part that's usually hard for people to articulate because it goes against everything they've been taught their whole life. And kind of what I do with the infinite banking concept, which is nothing more than a process of moving your money the same way a bank does, but their money has to start somewhere. And the wealthy individuals, all the way back to the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds, they understood that banks weren't going to be the place where they were going to store their capital because banks are in the business of making money on our money, which means we have to just park our money there. So they found a place where they could put their money and they could earn uninterrupted compound interest on every dollar they put through this machine. We'll just call it a machine now because it's a machine that moves your money. And then they could then redeploy that money or take that money out and then move it into a desired source, whether it's real estate or investments or businesses, anything. They could put their money there, take the money out, and then redeploy the money in another investment or another opportunity, but yet make money twice. And the number one thing, and I will get to the one thing, I promise. The number one thing to understand is something Albert Einstein talked about. He talked about compound interest. Now, most people listening to this think they understand compound interest, but what they think is they have to take their money, put it in something like, an investment account or a CD and leave it sit there to earn compound interest, which, hey, listen, like you're not wrong. That's what you've been taught. But what if there was a way where you could put your money in an account, okay? And I'll tell you what this account is in a moment. But then you could take that money out without interrupting the compound interest that money earns. In other words, if I took $1,000 and put it in this account that I'm talking about, and then I took 900 of my money out, if that was a bank, I'd only be making money on $100, the remaining amount in the account. But in this case, in what the wealthy do, they're making money on the full 1,000, even though they're holding $900. So whose $900 are they holding? Like, if it didn't come out of their account, like this sounds too good to be true. Like, whose money is it? Well, I'll tell you. The place where the wealthy put their money, a large portion of their capital is not a bank. It is a mutually owned giant insurance company. And you can't just go into an insurance company and make deposits. So they had to figure out, well, how do we get our money into these insurance companies and benefit from these guarantees? And I did say that word. It's not a swear word and it's not a trick. Guaranteed. That's almost a swear word in the financial advisory world.
It is.
But
it is.
They earn a guaranteed interest rate on their money. Plus, every year they participate and share in dividends that are paid by these insurance companies. So how do we get money in that kind of a place and have access to the money at the same exact time we're earning interest? Well, it's simple. It's what the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds figured out, I mean, many, many years ago, and they've applied it ever since. It is nothing more than a specially designed, and keyword, specially designed and engineered whole life insurance policy. Not the whole life insurance policy you buy from your brother-in-law or your financial advisor. I'm talking about a very different design. It's a design that is created from the way that banks use whole life insurance in a technique called BOLI, bank-owned life insurance. And we don't have time to go into that, but if you could find a way to change that one thing, and that is where your money goes first, and you figured out how to build one of these plans like we do for thousands of our clients, you would then tap into uninterrupted compound interest, and every penny you put through this specially designed and engineered whole life would earn interest and dividends for the rest of your life. But the best part is you'd have access and control of that money. In other words, you could put money into this whole life, then take that money out in the form of a loan, and then put that money into real estate or other investments or anything you want, an opportunity that presents itself. But yet, when you take that loan out, you're not taking your money, you're taking a loan, which is nothing more than an advance of your death benefit. That's the key. When you take the loan, all the insurance company is doing is giving you a loan against your death benefit, which in other words means that you don't have to pay that loan back. I mean, technically you do have to pay the loan back. I want to be transparent, but the loan, if you don't pay it back, which the insurance company will never ask for it back, is going to be paid on a day called graduation day. Now, graduation day is not what you think. It's not high school or college. It's the day. Yeah, I just don't like saying die. It's the day you die. The insurance company is made whole on those loans you took against death benefit the day you die. So therefore, you got to use that money your entire life, and you got to earn interest on every penny. I mean, that's the secret. Like, it's so simple, but yet nobody has ever taught you or showed you this, including myself. When I was an advisor, nobody showed me this, and they didn't show this to me. Even the brokerages I worked for, which sold life insurance, they didn't, because in order to do what I'm telling you, in order to put money in and have access to that money immediately in the first 30 days, someone has to give something up. And there's not a lot of people out there, and this is a sad thing, but there's just not a lot of people out there that are willing to give so that somebody else can get. And
so I left off saying before my phone lost service, I was talking about this is not a whole life policy that you buy from your regular agent or your financial advisor. In order for them to do that, in order for them to do what I just explained in that process, they would have to be willing to give up 60 to 90% of their commission. So I would urge you all, if you've got somebody you trust, an advisor, go to them and say, hey, listen, I heard about this thing called privatized banking and the infinite banking concept. And in order to design this whole life that this guy was talking about, he said that I have to give up, or that you would have to give up 60 to 90% of your commission in order to design this so that I have access to 60 to 90% more money. And then the funny part is watch for their answer, because I think what you're going to find is most financial advisors would never give up 60 to 90% of their income so that you have access to 60 to 90% more money. And that's the trick. That's the biggest thing that you have to understand. In order to actually make this work, somebody's got to give for somebody else to get. And that's the hardest part for people to understand.
For sure. Yeah. Well, that's then going to be interesting, because how would persons find you then if they wanted to be able to structure something like this? Because I'm sure a lot of persons are saying, yes, I want to be able to do this. How can they find you?
Yeah, it's really easy. They just go to my website. Everything I do, I just give away for free. So you can get my book for free, which is called Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery. But what I'd urge you to do is the same thing I had to do in 14. When I heard about this, I wanted to learn about it. And the person that taught me, my mentor, said, before I'll talk to you, you have to watch a 90-minute video so that you understand this concept. Now, we've spent a few minutes discussing the concept, but if you really want to understand it, in my website, under free resources is a 90-minute video. Matter of fact, it'll pop up right when you go to my website. Watch that 90-minute video and then set up a call with me, and also grab a copy of the free book, because hey, you can't ever, it doesn't ever hurt to get a copy of a free book. So that's where you
more knowledge. Yeah.
More knowledge, you know, and it's all right there for the taking and right there for free.
Okay, sounds good. And then so after persons watch the video, then they can jump on a call with you, all on the website. Perfect.
Correct.
And then,
it's just a prerequisite to the call. So, you know, if they want to do a call, they just have to watch that video first. And then after that, we'll jump on a call and I'll answer all questions that you might have about this concept. And that's all we'll do is I'll just go through and answer questions. And if it's something that works for you, you can say, how can I get started? And then we'll help you get started.
Oh, that sounds good. That sounds good. I for sure may be taking you up on that offer, because it sounds extremely lucrative. And one thing for sure, post-COVID, we don't know what the future holds. There's lots of uncertainty. And so the fact that we have you doing this amazing work and showing persons how to take control in an uncertain world is truly invaluable.
Yeah. Well, there's not a lot of people doing it. And, we don't do it for free. But the thing we realized is in order for us to serve a lot of people and help them do what we've learned how to do, we just have to go out and help an awful lot of people, because we don't make a lot for setting these up for people. But we found that if we solve a lot of people's money problems, we can do quite well with that. But that's the secret sauce right there.
Yeah. And you create a lot of impact in the world, right? So you leave a lasting footprint, which we all aim and aspire to do. So this is amazing. Thank you so much, Chris, for sharing this.
You're so welcome. So welcome. Thank you for having me on the show.